and Tableau ecosystems and beyond. For today's episode, we are exploring what it takes to be more Salesblazer. And I'm joined today by our guest speaker. So if you could kick things off by introducing yourself for our audience, please.
Hello, everyone. I am Piyusha Pilania, and by day, I'm a Salesforce consulting manager. But in reality, I am a Salesblazer. So I actually lead the Salesblazer APAC community group, and I am also a Salesblazer advisor. And yeah, it's actually fun to be in the Salesforce ecosystem, and especially in the Salesblazer community. And I'm really excited to talk all about Salesblazer community with Tom.
Awesome. Well, thanks for making the time to speak to us today. I'm looking forward to diving in really to what it means to be a Salesblazer. So maybe we can kick things off by kind of clarifying what that is as a role. And maybe it's kind of a mixture of your professional role and the Salesblazer role. But are you able to kind of break that down for our audience?
Absolutely. So Salesblazer role is actually a mix of both sales side as well as like people in the Salesforce ecosystem who work on the sales cloud side.
Mm-hmm.
So you can call yourself a Salesblazer if you are a sales professional. So you could be a BDR, an account executive, an SDR, or you could be a sales cloud consultant or a RevOps professional. Um, all of these roles are bucketed under the Salesblazer umbrella. And Salesblazers are people who like come together, share their knowledge with each other, and talk about all things sales primarily. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's great, and it's good to know that it covers that broad spectrum of different people kind of under the umbrella of sales, or perhaps like the sales department. So ultimately, if we think about this a little bit like as a community, what type of offering is there like within the Salesblazer community? I know we've touched on the user group a little bit already, but what other things are there out there in terms of like resources and places to go for like guidance and support?
So Salesblazer community actually, has a lot of different kind of offerings. One of them being the user groups. There are regional user groups and language based as well. So you have AMER, APAC, France, France, and Japan, and a few other language based groups as well. I'm having difficulty calling like the correct pronunciation of the name, but that's a group for French language, and it's called Francois, something like that. And so there are like language-based groups, and then there are region-based groups. The idea behind that was because um, how salespeople work in a specific region differs from other geographies. And so it was better to actually, bring them together under a particular region or with a particular language. And so that's like the very first thing where people come together. Sometimes we organize coffee chats where people talk to each other. Sometimes we organize like sessions with experts. For example, I did a session on objection handling with Justin J. Johnson. So he's a sales coach, and he came to share his knowledge about objection handling and how you use that skill in the sales world as well as Salesforce world, because objection handling is something which like almost all of us face. And so that's like one part of it. But other than that, like we have plethora of resources for salespeople. So there's a dedicated Salesblazer blog on Salesforce website. A lot of the Salesblazer advisors, they contribute to those blogs. So top sales professionals like Richard Harris and all of those interesting people you look up to in the sales world. They actually share their knowledge. And same goes for Salesforce as well. So salespeople actually need to use CRM. Otherwise, you'll not be able to, keep a track of what's going on in your world. And so to be able to do that, you need to understand the tech as well. So there is kind of an overlap between the sales and the sales consultant role, I'll say. And so that bridge has been covered through these blogs. So all of these people come together to write different blogs for the community members. And then we have a really amazing Slack space with, I will say, close to like 30,000 sales blazers. That space is inclusive of like our global community. There are some really interesting channels, Ask a Salesblazer or Sales Resources, and all of those channels are really amazing to actually, get answers to your questions. So you might be having an issue with one of your deals and you want somebody's help to actually understand how you can maybe solve that issue, because there are like things which you can maybe solve through other people's experiences. So the Slack community is really amazing. And specifically, like, I really like the Ask a Salesblazer channel because you can post a question there and you can expect like so many responses. And then besides that, like, Salesforce team also shares a lot of learning resources. We do have some amazing resources on Trailhead as well for salespeople. We have plenty of resources for Sales Cloud consultants, but we have like dedicated resources on Trailhead just for salespeople. We do even have a certification. And so apart from that, they have regular newsletters talking about different sales skills and all of those things. So it's essentially like a community of people bringing all the amazing sales goodness to people who are maybe new to the system or maybe are trying to upskill themselves by different skill sets. So it's like such a beautiful combination of these two worlds, I will say, that you get to learn about so many interesting things within the community.
Awesome. Wow. It sounds like there's a lot there. And I can certainly relate to like the concept of not knowing what's going on, because I can definitely kind of find myself in that headspace sometimes. So I totally get that. And it sounds really great that there's like a network of peers or other people in similar roles that you can just ask a question to. Like, I recently did that myself, like in the Agent Blazer workspace in Slack, and posted a question, and very quickly somebody jumped in and gave me a response. So that was amazing to see that type of functionality like in action, because it helped me as well. So thinking about this now, this isn't your kind of full-time job or career, right? This is something that you fit in on the side. How do you make room for all of this amazing work you do along with your full-time role and other like family commitments and things like that? How do you fit everything in?
So something which I really like about being a part of this community is I used to be a salesperson actually in my previous career. And so when Salesforce launched this wonderful community, I actually immediately thought about like being a part of it, because even in my role as of now, I do have like a bit of a sales flavor, I will say, because I work on a lot of the time on the pre-sale side as well. So I do have that constant touch with the sales community in my day-to-day job as well. But I do agree with your point, like this is not my full-time role. So carving time out for these activities is sometimes, I will say, like might get difficult because I have a toddler, and with a kid it's like so much going on in your home all the time. And so, however, I feel like I actually love connecting with the salespeople, because it's like you learn something new every day, because I still want to stay in touch with the previous career side of mine, and it gives me that opportunity to like do that and balance like both the worlds. Even though I've transitioned fully to the Salesforce consulting world, I still want to have that touch of sales in all of my roles, because I feel like sales is a skill which almost everyone needs in their life, and it's essentially like building relationships with people. So wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I just try to like find some time in my day to go to the Slack channel and see like what's happening, and you know see what people are doing, what they're talking about. There are channels like Sales Blazing Women, because we see that sales blazers are heavily like dominated by males. And so that's a channel which is like specific to us, and we talk about like how our week is going and how other things are happening. And so it's like those smaller things, they actually like push you to do better and just like wants you to be there for your community. So it's essentially like my friend group now, where I go to hang out and respond to people's questions. And so it's like so fun being there, I will say.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's great to know. And perhaps moving the conversation on a tad, but I think we're going to come back to some of the things you shared already. If there was somebody listening to this or watching this and they're thinking of perhaps starting their own journey to become a sales blazer, what tips, advice would you give to that person?
So the best thing which I would like to offer is don't try to do it all alone. Because
Mm,
when I started my career as a salesperson, sales is a cutthroat profession, I will say, because your peers are trying to, get more deals or like capture your deals because they want to get bigger bonus and all of that. So people here are not like very polite or not even interested in sharing their secrets with others, especially your colleagues. Other people might be interested in doing that, but your colleagues will not be interested in doing that. So when I started, I didn't have a support of anyone. So it was like difficult for me to do everything on my own because I was, learning from my mistakes. And it takes a while to actually do that. When you have mentors or you have, support of a community who can actually share their experiences with you, that um, journey to become better significantly, speeds up, because then you can figure out, okay, this was the issue and this is how I can solve it. So this is something which I want to actually share with everyone. Like, wherever you are in your journey, try to find a community of people or a mentor or somebody who actually can help you learn from their experiences, because you're not actually just selling. That's not the only goal you have. You also have to grow yourself while doing it, and to be able to do all of this together and at a much better pace. Community will help you significantly.
awesome. Well, thanks for that. And ultimately, what I take from that is like, don't close yourself off from the collaboration opportunities that are available to you. You're not in
Yeah.
competition with your peers. In this case, they're here to help you, right?
Yep, absolutely. And that's what I have observed so far. So I talked about Justin, right? I really enjoyed looking at him in the community because I have seen him posting full video responses to people's questions. So he's a sales coach. He takes time out to actually respond to those people's questions. And rather than actually trying to explain them by writing a message, he
Mhm.
records full fledged, maybe 4 or 5 minute video, depending on the situation, and try to share it with that person within the community so that people can actually go through it and it might help them in some way or the other. And so you will not see people doing that within the same company, but you can see that happening on a global level in this community. So that's one of the things which I really like.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Thinking about this now as a journey that you've been on yourself as a sales blazer, like you say, that's where your background was in your previous role, and now you kind of found yourself supporting and being part of the community. Like along that journey, you've probably learned a whole host of things, right?
Mhm.
Is there anything that you would change or do differently, do you think?
So one of the things which I have already shared is like I will probably find a community of people who can actually take me through this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing which I want to talk about it, and this is I feel like very important, is that when you first get into sales, you feel like you need to learn the product you're selling, and then everywhere you go, you try to sell that product. Whereas when you're interacting with your client, they're not interested in hearing all the things you have to say about your product. They're interested in learning how the future will look like if they use your product. So you need to sell the future, not the product. Because you know the product in and out, and it'll be very easy for you to talk about your products from the get-go, like, hey, we have this product, this is like doing this and that and whatever. But that is actually not going to help you close that deal. What can do is talk about how that product will make their problems go away, how their future will look like, because future is something everyone is interested in talking about, like, hey, magically all of my problems will disappear if I use
Yeah.
this. So that's like the biggest piece of advice I have. If I can go back and I can tell this to myself like 10 years ago, that hey, this is something which you need to do, that's something which I would love to do, actually.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And I love kind of how that indirectly leans into like Salesforce's approach in this area as well, because they're definitely very big into like storytelling and selling a vision rather than
Mhm.
like licenses or a product, right? Do you agree with, is that kind of what you're saying here?
I feel like that's one side of the story. You also have to think about like if whether your customer actually needs it. I agree the way Salesforce is doing things is like the right way, because you need to sell the vision to the customer, and
Hmm.
that's how you will be able to like make a purchase pretty easily. And that's why we can see like Salesforce is the number one CRM in the world. And to sustain that growth, you also have to understand the underlying side, that you need to make sure that whoever you're selling that product to, they actually really need it. It's not like you're just trying to fool them by giving them a candy. It's more like you have
Yeah.
to understand, like, okay, your product is actually solving their issues. If that's not happening, even if you sell a vision, it's not going to work out in the long run, because they might buy it one time and then they'll lose trust in you, and they'll share it with other people as well, that hey, this happened with me, do not buy that product because it's rubbish. And so it's really important to actually balance the vision as well as the trust with your client.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think that's kind of almost a little bit like having some moral integrity
Hmm.
when you're talking about things, right? Do you think that's part of it too? That
It
you're
is
doing the right
actually.
thing?
So you will see the best sellers around us will be the people who are really good at building relationships, building trust with the client. So if you
Hmm.
are not genuine, um, if you are not trustworthy, you might be able to make one sale, but you'll not be able to make repetitive sales. um, you might be able to sell to somebody, but if it is genuinely in their interest, they might talk highly about your product to other people as well. So it's essentially a game of like building trust and playing ethically in the game.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like most things kind of boil down to like the whole game thing, I think, in one way or the other. So thinking about this now, like if you were to summarize the skills or attributes it took to be a sales blazer, are there any particular like phrases or personality traits that stand out to you?
Mhm. Um, there are, I will say, a lot of um, personality traits, but something which I have seen in some of the successful people is having empathy and strategy. Um, as a salesperson, you need to be on top of your game with your strategies. But if you are empathetic to your clients' situations, you will be able to, build a relationship much quicker. You will be able to gain their trust. You will be able to understand what they're exactly asking and how you can do that. Um, so strategy and empathy, like two key skills which I've seen in like almost all the successful sales blazers.
Awesome. And do you think, like, as I'm reflecting on that a little bit, like, active listening is a really important part of this as well, right?
It is, yes. It's a really important part, and I feel like almost all the salespeople need to listen. And when we say listen, it's like they really truly need to listen to all of that conversation happening with their clients, because otherwise they'll not be able to build a relationship with them, because you can only have like so much of superficial conversation with somebody, unless you're listening very carefully. It just is going to be surface level. If you're listening very carefully, you might be able to pick out like why he said that, and the
Mm-hmm.
questions you ask them will actually be with that, tone, with that gentleness, with that thoughtfulness. And so yeah, listening is a really important skill here.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. And thinking about this now as a role, the role being sales blazer, like, is there something that people think of when they think of a sales blazer or a salesperson, like that is a misconception or kind of like an urban myth? Is like, is there anything that you would like to just clarify for our audience
Mhm.
right now, just to kind of put the record straight, almost like it is true or it isn't true? Is there anything like that that comes to mind?
There is like a very big misconception around like sales in general, and salespeople as well. When people think about like sales or sales blazers, they feel like, okay, they're the ruthless people who just think about their quota. Um,
Mm,
and a lot of time, you see there is a generalized version that, okay, sales, when you think about sales, it's automatically like, okay, a man with like a tight shirt and polished suit will be there taking, just talking about their quota. But that's not like what all sales is about. In some fancy world, that is true. But in general, sales is a deeply human profession. It's all about building relationships. It's about solving actual problems of your customers. It's about being that trusted person or advisor to your customers. So you need to be that person for your team. You need to be that
mhm.
person for your clients, and you can only be able to do that if you are actually human. You are an empathetic person. You will be able to, actually do that. So most of the people think that, oh, people are just like thinking about their deals, their quotas, their, um, you know, promotions or
Mm.
whatever, all of those things. But it's
Yeah.
not just a number game. It's more about relationship than selling.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm glad you you said that because that's something that I've learned over time. You know, it's quite easy to fall into those stereotypes or to just believe them because those are the only things you're hearing type thing, right? But it is actually about relationships. And I think that applies for many of the roles in the ecosystem, not just sales, but consultancy as well. And like as an admin or a BA, I think relationships are super important, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
Awesome.
even so, for example, as a consultant, I need to build relationship with my clients. I need to understand what their actually underlying issue is, because all of this things we just talked about, it actually, I feel like, kind of applies to a lot of different roles.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, well, it's great to know that those transferable skills are useful here, especially if there's somebody listening and they're feeling inspired and they want to kind of lean into becoming a sales blazer themselves. We are coming to an end of today's session, but before we do wrap things up, what's a way for people to connect with you? And are there particular pieces of content or resources that you would like to kind of shout out where people can go to learn more? I know we've mentioned a couple already.
So if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or on the Salesblazer Slack channel. I will find this session on LinkedIn, and I'll try to post a link to join the Salesblazer Slack channel if you're interested. And about the resources, I feel like there are a lot of resources available. But the Salesblazer blogs on the Salesforce website are really amazing way for you to get started on your Salesforce or like Salesblazer journey, I would say. Because as a Salesforce professional, you get a lot of resources available almost everywhere. But as a Sales
Mhm.
Blazer, I will say the resources are pretty limited. So you can actually go through that blog. They're really, really amazing and rich in content. So I will also be sharing that Salesblazer blog link there. And if you are looking to connect with people, I organize a Salesblazer coffee on third Thursday of every month. So I will drop a link to that as well in case you're interested. So I
Nice.
will drop a bunch of links, and depending on your interest, you can probably pick things.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, it's good to know that there's a wide range of different resources dependent on, I guess, your time zone, your interest, and what learning method works best for you. So that's great. And I just wanted to thank you again for joining us for today's session. And hopefully we will inspire some more sales blazers. So thanks again for your time.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation, and it was lovely talking to you and talking about all things Salesblazer.
I had fun. Thanks.
Me too.
Bye.